All right, we're joined now by Constable Tad MILMINE. He's from Surrey, BC, and he's going across the country and the world, in fact, talking to youth about anti-bullying and bullying. Thanks a lot for coming in this morning. I appreciate that.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, first off, this is something you do in your spare time. This isn't associated with your policing duties, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah,
no.
And you started doing this how long ago?
It was about 14 months ago now.
Yeah? And this kind of stems from a couple of things, but you were bullied as a child yourself. When you look back at that, do you think that kind of shaped the way your life turned out? I mean, becoming a police officer and whatnot?
Definitely, as far as what I'm doing now, as far as trying to help the youth, yes. As far as being a police officer, I remember having that dream as a little boy that, 5 years old, always so badly wanted to grow up to be the police officer. So I think maybe they kind of go hand in hand, but I don't necessarily think one shaped the other. But definitely now, taking my experiences of being bullied definitely comes into play with wanting to help today's youth.
Yeah, and also something else, there's an event that happened about a year and a half ago or so that also made you want to get on the road and talk to youth. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was the suicide of Jamie Hubley. So he was a 15-year-old youth in Ottawa that for years and years was relentlessly bullied for, it started for being a figure skater and not a hockey player, but then towards the last couple of years he was with us, it was, he came to terms with his sexuality and came out as being openly gay, and unfortunately the bullying it continued, and Jamie couldn't hang in there long enough, so he took the route that he thought was the only way out. And when I read his story, having never met this boy before at all, and as you've already alluded to, being a police officer, there's something about his story that just shook me to the core. I recognized that I at least had to just get out there and just try doing something. I didn't know what it would be, but I messaged Jamie's dad. I said, listen, from this point forward, would it be okay if I told the world about your son, if I could tell the world about your child? And he said yes, and long story short, I created Bullying Ends Here, and this is what I'm doing.
And you're going to talk to a lot of students. This week alone, 5,000 students in this area. I mean, anti-bullying, it seems like a simple message, but how do you get through to the kids, and what techniques do you use and the messages you try to teach them?
Well, it's still to this day I'm very kind of shocked with what's happening, because what I'm doing is the simplest of means, and that's just simply talking. I just go in there, it's what you see is what you get. I don't have any videos or music or anything on those lines. I literally stand in front of the youth and I throw my heart out there. I tell them all my deep dark secrets growing up. I share with them Jamie's story. Is always still with us though, so I talk about the challenges he went through on different dates in his life, and then the end result of what that is. And then I go to letting the youth know that the reason why I'm there is because I know what it feels like to be them. I remember high school. I remember the pains I went through. I remember feeling alone. I remember feeling like I didn't have someone to talk to, and that's when I tell them that from that moment on, now that they've gotten to know me in person, look me in the eye, now they recognize that when they go home they can go to the website and they can message me. They can let me know anything they want.
It's always nice when you can relate to somebody who's been in that experience, even if it's not a good experience. Talk about bullying nowadays. I mean, is it really more prevalent than what I remember? Because it's hard for me to relate, but it seems like with social media and whatnot, is there more bullying happening, or is it just the means of which bullies are using social media and whatnot?
Well, coming from someone that, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a counselor, I haven't done any polls or statistics or anything like that, but I can tell you directly from the youth, and just in the last 14 months, I think I'm 8,500 emails or so. So coming directly from them, it is so much worse than we could imagine, especially because of social media. The relentless, it never ends. And it's not so much about that youth in particular when they go home, it's their phone that's binging and bonging with all these messages. It's the fact that when they're amongst their peers, when they're in their school, they're hearing about what's out there about them.
It's constantly around them. Tad, what's your website?
bullyingendshere.ca.
All right, you're going to touch a lot of youth this week with this anti-bullying message. Thanks a lot for coming in this morning.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it greatly.